Hello, everyone. My name is Rog,
And my name is Oliver.
and today will be the 7th episode of our podcast on the New York City subway system. This episode will be about the Lexington Avenue Lines, which is going to include the 4, 5, and 6 trains. And we also just threw in the 7 train in here because it really didn't have a...
Didn't fit anywhere
Yeah, it
else.
didn't really fit anywhere else. But I hope you all enjoy this episode, and make sure to have a subway map out as you're listening to follow along.
And to start, as always, I'm going to have the service pattern information for these lines. So note that though we refer to the 4, 5, and 6 as the Lexington Avenue lines, they travel under Park Avenue, south of 42nd Street, and under Lexington Avenue, north of 42nd Street. So we'll start with the 4 train, which runs from Woodlawn in the Bronx to Crown Heights Utica Avenue in Brooklyn. It runs local along the Jerome Avenue line, crosses into Manhattan, runs express along the Lexington Avenue line, crosses into Brooklyn via the Jorah-Lemon Street Tunnel, and runs express along the Eastern Parkway line to Crown Heights Utica Avenue. Next is the 5 train, which runs between Eastchester, Dyer Avenue in the Bronx, and Flatbush Avenue, Brooklyn College in Brooklyn. It runs local along the Dyer Avenue line, local along the White Plains Road line, though it runs express during rush hours in the peak direction, towards Manhattan in the morning, towards Bronx in the afternoon, on this portion of the line. It then runs express along Lexington Avenue, express along Eastern Parkway in Brooklyn, and local along the Nostrand Avenue line to Flatbush Avenue, Brooklyn College. Next is the 6 train, which runs between Pelham Bay Park in the Bronx and Brooklyn Bridge City Hall in Manhattan. It runs as the Pelham Local and the Lexington Avenue Local. During rush hours, there is rush hour express service on the Bronx portion of the line. And this is in the rush hour peak direction, which means towards Manhattan in the morning and towards Pelham Bay Park in the afternoon. So during rush hours, local service will start or end at Park Chester, and it stops at all stations until Brooklyn Bridge City Hall, while express service starts or ends at Pelham Bay Park, runs local until Park Chester, after which it runs express between Park Chester and 3rd Avenue 138th Street, making only one stop in between at Hunts Point Avenue. So next is the 7 train, which runs between 34th Street Hudson Yards in Manhattan and Flushing Main Street in Queens. It runs local along 42nd Street in Manhattan, and then local along the elevated the Flushing line in Queens. Similar to the 6, the 7 also has rush hour peak direction express service, so towards Manhattan in the mornings, towards Queens in the afternoon. These 7 express trains can go very fast, often above 40 miles per hour, due to the straight track and long distances between stations. So in Queens, these 7 express trains stop at Queensboro Plaza, 61st Street Woodside, Junction Boulevard, Metz Willets Point, and Flushing Main Street, and skipping over 10 stops in the process. And to start off the attractions, we'll start with the 6 train, north of 125th Street. So the 6 train starts at Pelham Bay Park Station, where, as you guessed, you can visit Pelham Bay Park, which is the largest park in New York City. It's more than 3 times larger than Central Park, has 2 golf courses, a beautiful 13-mile shoreline along Long Island Sound, and there's lots of opportunities for hiking, walking, biking, picnicking, or other outdoor activities. So if you're looking to just get out of the city, spend some time in the green outdoors, Pelham Bay Park is a great place for it. And of course, if you're a big movie person or you like New York movies, the station is known for its connections to the movie The Taking of Pelham 123, which came out in 1974, along with its 2009 remake. This is a crime thriller / drama film where a 6 train leaving from this station at 1:23 p.m., hence the name Pelham 123, is hijacked by armed men, and it follows the story of the transit police officers who try and stop them. So, allegedly, because of this connection to the movie, you will not find a train that is scheduled to leave Pelham Bay Park at 1:23 a.m. or 1:23 p.m. So, even though this movie came out almost 50 years ago now, there's still that superstition. There's no trains leaving Pelham Bay Park at 1:23.
Cool example of how pop culture actually has an effect on things like this, right? Like, you wouldn't really expect them to be that superstitious,
Yeah.
but here they are. So I'll continue on with the next station, which is going to be Elder Avenue. Here you have a Starlight Park, which is about it's a somewhat long walk. It's it's probably maybe a 2 to 3, maybe 4 minute walk, and it's located along the Bronx River. It's often called a gem of the Bronx River. It has been reclaimed, reconstructed, and expanded. When you cross the pedestrian bridge at East 177th Street, you enter a vital link along the Bronx River Greenway. This park is 13 acres long, really, and it features a synthetic turf, picnic area, 2 new playgrounds. That have spray showers. You have basketball courts. There's many pathways for walking, and there's also some floating docks, I believe, that are all on the Bronx River, I guess. And then those are the main attractions of the park. After that, I'm going to move on to Whitlock Avenue Station. Here you have another park called the Concrete Plant Park. Here, this is just like there's a lot of green space, and there's a lot of routes for both bicycles and pedestrians. There's also a waterfront promenade, which is an amazing place to walk. And here you can find a kayak or a canoe launch if you want to kayak and canoe in the Bronx, along the Bronx River, which is a little suspect to say the least, but hey.
Up to you.
Up to you. After that, the 6 train passes through mostly residential neighborhoods, which are in the Bronx, so those would be Soundview, Longwood, and Mott Haven. The next station I'm going to be talking about is 125th Street. Here you have a 3rd Avenue bridge. This is mainly for like carrying traffic, and it's not really it's a bridge for function over form, I guess.
Yeah.
And then also near here you have another park called the Harlem River Park, which is also near the Harlem River. And it has once again has a lot of green space. You can picnic there as well, but mainly the park was named after John Harlem, if I remember correctly. But Harlem comes from like a Dutch word for Harlem. It has cool roots, I guess. So I'm going to just pass it off to Oliver, who's going to talk about the 5th train north of 125th Street.
So yeah, the 5, it starts at Eastchester Dyer Avenue up in the Bronx, and it runs along a former commuter railroad line until East 180th Street. Again, these are mostly residential neighborhoods it passes through. And along this part of the line, it stops at Baychester Avenue, Gun Hill Road, Pelham Parkway, and Morris Park. And then between East 180th Street and 149th Street Grand Concourse, the 5 train shares tracks with the 2 train, so check out the 7th Avenue line episode for attractions on this part of the route. And note that during rush hours, the 5 train will actually run express between these 2 stations, making no stops in between, and it will run express towards Manhattan in the mornings and towards the Bronx in the afternoons. And then the 5 train merges with the 4 train at 138th Street Grand Concourse. So next is the 4 train north of 125th Street. The 4 train starts at Woodlawn, which is also near Van Cortlandt Park, which was also mentioned in the 7th Avenue Lines episode. Then the 4 train travels south along the Jerome Avenue line, which very closely parallels the B and D trains on the nearby Concourse line. So if you actually look at a subway map, the lines are very close together. They're less than a quarter of a mile apart in many places. And some of the stations are even on the same street or like less than a block apart. So you can see the 6th Avenue episode for attractions in this area. One notable attraction is at Kingsbridge Road Station. You have the Kingsbridge Armory, which is a decommissioned armory, one of the largest armories in the world. It has the former drill hall is 180,000 square feet. It is unfortunately not used as an armory anymore. However, plans are being drawn to determine how it will be like repurposed to serve the community, as there's a lot of open space, and it could be turned into like a community center, or it could be used by one of the. There's a lot of like universities or educational institutions in the area. It could be used for those too.
And you can be sure Rob Ding is crying over this fact. But anyways.
Yes, unfortunately decommissioned. So also the 4 train serves Yankee Stadium. If you want to watch the New York Yankees, or like I did, I watched an MLS game at Yankee Stadium.
I feel like that's sacrilege, but I'm not going to say anything.
I was actually right behind home plate when I was watching it, so that would have been like the most expensive seat at a baseball game.
Wow.
But I was watching and New York City FC, I think.
You think? Do you remember who they're playing?
No. I just remember one player, like Pirlo.
Pirlo, that's all you remember?
That's all I remember.
Did you go with like family and stuff? Or?
Yeah, because my cousin from Hong Kong was visiting and he wanted to watch. So
you watch some soccer?
Yeah. Only time I've been to Yankee Stadium. I should wait. Basically, yeah.
The only time. I don't think I've ever been, so.
Yeah.
Anyways, continue.
Yeah, so, and if you are a very big baseball fan, the Subway Series is the well-known rivalry between the New York Mets and the Yankees. So if you want to get between the two stadiums, you'll want to take the 4 train from Yankee Stadium to Grand Central, and then at Grand Central you change to the 7 train and take it to Mets Willets Point. And so next we're going to be covering the main Lexington Avenue section between 125th Street and Brooklyn Bridge City Hall. So the 6th train will be running local along this portion of the line, making all stops, while the 4 and 5 will run express here. And they stop only at 125th Street, 86th Street, 59th Street, Grand Central 42nd Street, 14th Street Union Square, and Brooklyn Bridge City Hall. So again, if you like very long express runs and having your train pass by other trains, this is a great place for it.
So now we're going to continue along that main branch in Manhattan for the Lexington Avenue Lines. And I'm going to start with the 103rd Street station. Here you have the Museum of the City of New York. It's a history and art museum that serves to preserve the history of New York City and the people who live here. The current exhibits include Food in New York, Timescapes, which is a 28-minute film on the history of New York, and New York Now Home, which is a photo series highlighting the themes of issues present throughout the city. So if you are interested about the history of New York, this is a great place to get all that information distilled. I would check it out if you're in New York City. Next station I'm going to be mentioning is 86th Street station, and for some reason we have a large amount of museums near this area.
Yeah, this part of Fifth Avenue is called I think it's like Museum Row because of all of these like art design museums that Rob will be talking about.
Yeah, which is honestly like is it like this? You know how like fast food places show up right next to each other because like they're trying to steal each other's competition.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's like a similar thing, but I feel like museums a lot of times they're donation based, right?
Yeah.
So like I mean not all of them, which you'll see which you'll see now, but I just thought that was a little cool, but anyways.
Yeah.
So the first museum I'm going to be talking about is the Cooper Hewitt Smithsonian Design Museum. This is the only museum in the United States devoted exclusively to historical and contemporary design. It has one of the most diverse and comprehensive design collections in existence. There's more than 215,000 design objects that span over 30 centuries, from ancient textiles, works on paper, to icons of modern design and cutting-edge technologies. This museum is definitely, I think, out of many of the museums we've talked about on this podcast, something you should definitely check out. And it serves as an inspiration for creative works of many different kinds, and it basically tells how design is important to improving our world. The next museum I'm going to be talking about is the Metropolitan Museum of Art. The good thing about this museum is that, in fact, New York State residents and New York, New Jersey, or Connecticut students can actually pay what they want for access into this museum. And this is like a relatively standard museum, but it's it's definitely like a good place. I always like mentioning museums where you can go for free or basically for free because it's a experience that doesn't put a strain on your budget if you do in fact have one. And then the next museum I'm talking about is the Solomon R. Guggenheim Museum. I hope I said that right. Here the price of admission is around $25 for adults and then $18 for students and seniors. And that same price also applies to those with disabilities. And this is a museum I think that might have other branches, but I'm not 100% sure.
And I think this one's a bit more of like modern art.
Modern art.
Yeah. The building from the outside is a
very
futuristic
yeah.
design.
Almost looks like a spaceship, but anyways, that's sort of the type of art you'll be getting into with this museum.
Yeah, so if you're like really big into the arts, want to look at paintings or discover some new forms, then you'll probably find yourself here at 86th Street.
Mm-hmm. So moving on from all those museums, I'm gonna go to Grand Central 42nd Street, where you have the famous Grand Central Terminal. It's a massive, beautiful train station. It has beautiful Beaux Art design, and it's served by Metro North, and since January 25th, 2023, Long Island Railroad service. There's lots of shopping and dining opportunities. You'll have your Shake Shack, you'll have your Magnolia Bakery, Tartanary, and Luke's Lobster. So there's a wide variety of cuisine.
Yeah.
There's also the main concourse, which is that clock in the center that you might have seen in many photos.
Or if you watch Madagascar.
Oh, yeah. Great movie. Is an iconic meeting point for New Yorkers. The main concourse is just a great place to stand in and admire the architecture, and also if you just want to watch people, it's like a good place to see people coming and going, sprinting to their train station because for some reason they didn't plan ahead.
Yeah.
There's a tennis club apparently here.
Yeah.
Too.
There's like a single court like up in like the atrium at Grand Central. You can actually like look into the main concourse from there.
Do you know if it's like open to the public or?
Yeah, you can rent it, but if you want to pay $200 an hour to play tennis in Grand Central, that's up to you. And also the court is a bit small on the side, so. High balls.
No high balls.
No high balls.
Okay. And then you have the Summit One Vanderbilt, which is an immersive art experience that is near here at Grand Central 42nd Street. There's an observation deck with glass ledges, and it's around 1,100 feet above the ground. It's sort of like an open air terrace. There's a Nordic style cafe if you like eating in the sky basically.
Yeah.
There's lots of glass reflective surfaces, and it basically results in like beautiful views of New York City from Midtown. And I will say, if you ever have a chance, I think at least once you might want to check out these sort of observation deck type restaurants, because they're definitely like a unique experience of their own.
Yeah.
Though we haven't talked too much about food during these podcasts, I would suggest checking it out.
I think they also have these observation deck restaurants here at One Vanderbilt. I think some at Hudson Yards too, and also I think One World Trade Center also.
Yeah, well that definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
So the next station I'm going to be talking about is 23rd Street Station, where you have the Fotografska, which I believe is the Swedish word for photography.
Yeah.
And this is a New York City branch of a Swedish contemporary photography museum. Excuse me, and here it apparently is a destination to discover world-class photography, eclectic programming, and elevated dining, which with surprise new perspectives. This is sort of the spiel you get on their website.
Yeah.
But the one thing I'll mention is at the moment there's only one exhibition open right now. I don't know when that will change. This podcast is being recorded on at 12:35 on May 25th, 2023. So that most likely will change when you visit. But if you like photography, this is definitely a museum you should check out. So moving along, we're gonna pass Union Square. We've already talked about Union Square quite a bit. There's Astor Place, which is a station for NYU. We've talked about NYU before. And then the next station we'll be talking about Spring Street, where you have Chinatown, and once again, Chinese food. Yum. So good. So definitely check that out. And then also Canal Street, which has been talked about in other episodes. You have the Soho, which is the high-end artsy and shopping district. So the next station, I'm going to have Oliver take it away, which is going to be Brooklyn Bridge City Hall.
So Brooklyn Bridge City Hall is the last stop on the 6 train. 6 trains end here at all times. And we've also covered the City Hall area attractions on the Broadway and Brooklyn Lines episodes. And of course, the Brooklyn Bridge is nearby too. Very nice bridge you can walk across, take pictures of.
I definitely recommend that.
Yeah. And I think this is probably one of the best like sort of hidden secrets on the subway is the old City Hall station. So the old City Hall station, it opened in 1904 as part of the original subway system. The very first ever New York City subway train departed from this station on October 27th, 1904. So this old station, it features ornate glass and ceramic tilework. There's skylights and there's even chandeliers in there. So a time when riding the subway was pretty classy, actually. The station is built on a loop, and as a result, it has a curved platform, which it might be a little strange if you haven't gone to, if you've seen most train platforms. Actually, 14th Street Union Square, a couple stops up, also has a curved platform. And they actually they have things called gap fillers, which extend from the platform to the train to compensate for that gap. But back to City Hall. Because of this loop, the station was closed in 1945 because it was very close to the current Brooklyn Bridge station, and the fact that the platforms could not be extended to accommodate the new longer 10-car trains. Subway trains used to be 5 cars long, but they were extended to 10 cars as ridership grew. And also, the curve meant that there was a very large gap between the platform and the middle doors of the train. The current gap between the train and the platform is like 2 or 3 inches, but this gap would have been like maybe 1 or 2 feet.
Wow.
So this would have been completely inaccessible for people with wheelchairs or even just anyone, like a 1 to 2 foot gap. That's
like
something.
you'd have to. That's almost requiring you to jump over.
Yeah, yeah. So even though the station is closed, the track is actually still used to turn around 6 trains that terminate at Brooklyn Bridge City Hall. So a 6 train will pull in on the downtown platform. It's going to go out of service. It's going to go around the loop and then reemerge on the northbound platform, ready to head back up to Pelham Bay Park. So if you want to see this station, this old ornate station where the first subway train departed from, I've done this before. It's a very cool experience. You should stay on the southbound 6 train after it has made its final stop at Brooklyn Bridge City Hall. So the train will go into a tunnel and then around the loop with the station. So you should look out the right side of the train to see the station. As the train's going around the loop, if you go on a sunny day, you could usually see the platform and the station highlighted really well. And then after traversing the loop, the train will reemerge on the northbound platform at Brooklyn Bridge City Hall Station. So if you want to see an old subway station, this is the way. Just know that transit employees might not be too happy of you staying on an out-of-service train, but just stick away from the center aisle, keep close to the windows, and you should be able to get a great view of this old station. I would very highly
recommend it.
I recommend doing it. Yeah, it's a very cool piece of New York City history that you can see.
I'm definitely going to check it out when I get a chance. So the next station I'm going to be talking about is Fulton Street Station. Here there's actually connection available to a bunch of other subway lines, the 2 train, 3 train, A, C, J, and Z. And you also have the Fulton Center Mall. We haven't mentioned many malls in the podcast, but if you like shopping, this is the place for you. Next is Wall Street, which is, as you guessed it, there's Wall Street. So if you want to see where a lot of the world's finances happen and how people basically control the economy, not government-based, obviously, but
yeah.
This is a place to check out. After that, we're going to be going to Bowling Green Station, which is this is near the South Ferry, where, once again, you go to Staten Island for some reason, Ellis Island, Governor's Island, and the Statue of Liberty. So that's the main attraction of Bowling Green. So...
and now I'll be covering the 4 and 5 train south of into Brooklyn. So the 4 and 5 train, after Bowling Green, they cross into Brooklyn via the Jora-Lemon Street Tunnel, which is a fun word to say. The 4 train continues express along Eastern Parkway until its last stop at Crown Heights Utica Avenue, sharing tracks with the 3 train. Then the 5 train, it also runs express along Eastern Parkway until Franklin Avenue, Medgar Evers College. And after that, it runs local along the Nostrand Avenue line until Flatbush Avenue, Brooklyn College. So know that the 4 and 5 trains' routes in Brooklyn, they completely overlap with the 2 and 3 trains, which we have already covered. So check out the 7th Avenue line episode for information about attractions along these lines in Brooklyn. And so next, we will be jumping over to the 7 train, which is a bit of an oddball. We kind of just threw it into this episode, so here we go. In Manhattan, it starts at 34th Street Hudson Yards, which is a new station that was opened in 2015. Or is it 2000? Yeah, very recently. Very modern design. And of course, it is near Hudson Yards, which is a modern shopping and office district. There's a lot of new high-rises and apartments off in this area. The Vessel, which is the beehive-like structure, which is unfortunately closed as of now and probably indefinitely. It's the start of the High Line, which we mentioned earlier in the Brooklyn Lines episode. There's a lot of good restaurants in the area. One of my personal favorites is Mercado Little Spain. There's a lot of good Spanish food, so like paella, tapas, stuff like that. And then they have very good churros con chocolate, which is they have small churros with hot chocolate that you use to dip it in.
That sounds really good.
Yeah, it is really good, and it is the closest I've tasted to the churros con chocolate that I tried in Barcelona. Yeah,
Those were good, I imagine.
Yeah. Closest I've tasted to authentic here in the U.S. So definitely check this place out. And if that's not your thing, the place is set up like a market, so there's a lot of there's mini shops and also a sit-down restaurant if you want something more formal. Then the 7 train stops at Times Square, which we mentioned before, billboards, shopping.
You get all that stuff.
Bagum shrimp for some reason. Then it makes a stop at Bryant Park, where we have Bryant Park in the New York Public Library main building. Then also Grand Central Terminal, where it connects with the Lexington Avenue lines, which we mentioned. The 7 train then crosses into Queens via the Steinway Tunnel. It stops at Court Square and Queensboro Plaza. Both are important transfer stations, which we have mentioned before. And if you've seen the 2020 Pixar movie Soul, the 7 train platform at Queensboro Plaza is actually featured, and it's also a very well-known spot for taking photos because of the platform's positioning right into the sunset and good view of the skyline too, and also the curved train track leading into the station, which makes for very nice train photos. And then, so this portion of the 7 line in Queens is entirely elevated, except for the first couple stations before Queensboro Plaza, along with Flushing Main Street Station. And the line runs almost perfectly east to west. So many stations along this line, namely 46th Street Bliss Street, 61st Street Woodside, 82nd Street Jackson Heights, and Metz Willets Point, have really nice sunset views. So if you're a photographer looking to get that nice sunset, New York City skyline, and also the subway, an iconic part of New York City, into one photo, this is a great line to do it. And also, if you are looking for more sunset views for your Instagram or for your personal collection of photos, the MTA actually provides a list of stations on the subway with amazing sunset views. Just look up MTA Best Sunset Views, and it will provide you a list of stations and even some routes that provide really good views to watch the sun go down. Also, note about the 7 train is that it is nicknamed the International Express as it passes through many ethnic neighborhoods along its route, namely East Asian, South Asian, Latino, among others, along its route in Queens. And the 7 train route is even designated a National Millennium Trail, which is a trail of national significance. It was designated in 1999 because of its connection with the American immigrant experience, especially along this part of the route. So if you're trying to venture into different ethnic neighborhoods and try out different cuisines or just see what it's like for
Other cultures?
For other cultures, this is a great line to do it. Each stop has a unique ethnic neighborhood, and I think it's a very, very, very cool and unique line to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the stops I'll mention is 61st Street Woodside. where transfer is available to Long Island Railroad service and the Q70 select bus service to LaGuardia Airport. Next is 69th Street, which is home to Little Manila, which has a large Filipino community, and there's lots of cool Filipino restaurants. Jollibee Fried Chicken, of course. This is one of the ethnic neighborhoods I'm talking about. Lots of opportunities to try like authentic ethnic food. The next station, skipping forward a bit, I'll talk about is Mets Willets Point. So this station is the home station for Citi Field, which is the stadium of the New York Mets, and also the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center, which is the home of the US Open. So the 7 train is already a pretty crowded line as it is, but it often gets extra crowded during the summer because of sports fans heading to or from these venues. And the 7 train often has special express service to or from Manhattan before and after these events to accommodate these extra travelers. And also at this site is the Flushing Meadows Corona Park, which is the site of the 1939 and 1964 World's Fairs. Some structures from these fairs remain, namely the Unisphere, which is a giant stainless steel representation of Earth. There's a very expansive green space in this park, one of the larger, I think it's the 4th largest in New York City. Mm-hmm. And there's pretty much any outdoor activity you can think of: soccer, baseball, tennis, volleyball, cricket. They even have a rec center for working out. There's an indoor pool, and there's also lots of lakes and trails to explore on foot, bike, or kayak. And also a fun note if you're a literature person, this Flushing Meadows Corona Park was built on a former landfill, and if you've read The Great Gatsby, this is approximately the area where the Land of the Ashes?
Yeah, Land of the Ashes.
Land of the Ashes.
Or it might have been Valley of the Ashes.
Valley of the Ashes, where they have like the poster of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is approximately this is the landfill, the former landfill that they used
for as inspiration
for that. So then the 7 train comes to an end in Flushing at Flushing Main Street. Downtown Flushing has a lot of really good Asian food with lots of bakeries and restaurants. It's called the Chinatown of Queens' Chinatown. Mm-hmm. If you like Asian food, again, Chinese, Korean, Japanese, Taiwanese, etc., go here. They have a really wide variety. And one thing I did see noted about the neighborhood is that the appearance of a store is not necessarily reflective of the quality. Sometimes it's inversely related, actually.
I completely agree. This is just a general rule of thumb for Asian restaurants. The worse you're treated, the better the food you're going to get. In some cases, I won't say that's true for all, but don't be scared off, I guess. If that makes sense.
Like those hole in the wall stuff, or like the food carts, like with like little like handwritten signs or whatever. Mm-hmm. Those often have the best food. So don't feel like you're constrained to the really nice storefronts. Just go out there and explore a little. You'll definitely find some very good food.
So that seems to be the end of the episode. Thank you for making it this far. I hope you found this episode helpful, and we'll see you next time.